JANZZ.technology, the podcast.
Hi everyone, welcome back to a new season of the JANZZ.technology podcast. I'm Laura Flamaric, your host, and today we'll be discussing a crucial question. Why do we need new key performance indicators, also known as KPIs, to more effectively describe labor markets? To help us unpack this topic, I'm joined by a very special guest, Stefan Vincentrik, CEO and founder of JANZZ.technology, and an expert in labor market analytics. Welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the basics. Why have traditional KPIs like unemployment rates and labor market participation been the main focus for so long?
Well, take the unemployment rate as an example. It's been a central metric for decades because it's relatively simple to measure, easy to communicate, and it has a direct impact on people's lives. When unemployment goes up, governments and businesses can respond. The same goes for labor market participation, which shows how many people are working or actively looking for work. But the problem with these traditional KPIs is that they don't give us the full picture.
How so?
Well, for instance, a 4% unemployment rate might look great on the surface, but it doesn't tell you if the jobs people are getting actually match their skills, or if they are underemployed, like working part-time but wanting full-time hours. It also doesn't show whether people are earning a living wage.
So, in a way, these metrics are more like an on-off switch. Either you're employed or you're not, without addressing the quality or suitability of the job. Is that right?
Exactly. And that's where the concept of labor market mismatch comes in. It's not just about whether people are working, it's about whether they are in the right jobs, based on their skills, education, and experience.
Right.
Think about it. In today's world, the economy is shifting rapidly. We have automation, AI, global trade, and a growing demand for digital skills. These factors are creating more complexity in labor markets than ever before.
So, we're saying that even though someone might be employed, they could, for instance, still be in a role that doesn't fully leverage their skills.
Right. Let's say you are a highly educated software engineer working in a retail store. You are technically employed, so you wouldn't show up as unemployed in the government stats. But clearly, you are not in a role that utilizes your full skill set. This is a form of labor market mismatch, and it's becoming a bigger issue in both developed and developing countries.
We agree that labor market mismatch is a very relevant KPI, especially with technology driving changes in the workforce. How would tracking mismatch data help both businesses and policymakers make better decisions?
That's a great question. When we measure mismatch, we are essentially identifying gaps in the labor market, whether that's skills gaps, geographic mismatches, or even sectoral mismatches where industries struggle to find the right talent. For policymakers, tracking mismatch data helps in tailoring education and training programs to meet real-time labor market needs. For instance, if we know that there is a shortage of workers with data science skills in a certain region, governments can adjust funding for universities or vocational programs accordingly. Businesses can also benefit by identifying where to focus their hiring efforts or invest in employee reskilling to reduce turnover and improve productivity.
Interesting. So instead of focusing purely on getting people into jobs, we are focusing on getting people into the right jobs.
Exactly. Labor market mismatch data also helps to forecast future trends. If you can identify mismatches now, you can predict where shortages will occur and plan accordingly. This leads to a more resilient labor market and reduces inefficiency that come from having the wrong people in the wrong roles.
It makes sense, especially when considering the challenges brought by technological change, globalization, and even the pandemic.
The mismatch is very, very big, and the main issue with most of the unfilled positions we see is that candidates either don't want the jobs or are overqualified.
Necessary jobs are not attractive because of low wages, bad working conditions, and disloyal employers. We have written a paper on this topic, which I will link below in the podcast description.
Exactly, and that's why it's crucial to look beyond just the unemployment rate or labor participation numbers. They don't help us improve the situation. We need to effectively understand and describe labor markets.
How difficult is it to measure mismatch compared to traditional KPIs like unemployment?
It can be complex, but that's where technology like what we develop at JANZZ plays a critical role. With advanced data analytics, AI, and machine learning, we can now assess vast datasets from job postings, employee profiles, and even social networks to analyze patterns of skills and occupations. We are moving beyond surveys and self-reporting, which were traditionally used to gather labor market data. By leveraging this technology, we can track in real time where mismatches are occurring, whether that's in a specific industry or geographic area, and provide actionable insights to employers, educational institutions, and governments.
That's a major shift, especially for making data useful. So, what other new KPIs should we be considering in addition to labor market mismatch?
Another crucial KPI is obsolete skills.
I'm not entirely comfortable with how this sounds.
Well, we do need to accept that certain skills are becoming outdated or becoming less useful as technology and industry evolves.
Right.
The tracking helps us stay ahead of the curve and ensure that both individual and organizations can adapt to the new demands.
For instance?
For instance, if we identify that demand for a particular technology is declining, educational institutions can adjust their curricula accordingly to prevent students from investing time in skills that may not be as relevant in the near future.
Right, that's concerning, especially for those whose skills might become outdated faster than they can adapt.
Exactly, and just to mention, we have to consider that not everyone has the time, capacity, or inclination to upskill, which brings me to another KPI we should be focusing on.
Let me guess, is that related to location and travel?
Correct. Another valuable KPI is workplace flexibility. This measures how well jobs are adapting to evolving trends like remote work or gig work. By analyzing this, we can better understand how the workforce is shifting in terms of lifestyle preferences and organizational culture.
Like now, for example, we see a trend of wanting to work 100% from home or having a hybrid job.
Yes, businesses need to adapt their HR practices to accommodate these shifts. It also reflects how well companies are supporting flexible work arrangements, which can impact job satisfaction and productivity.
That's really eye-opening. Workplace flexibility is definitely a key trend in today's work environment. Are there any other key indicators we should be aware of?
Absolutely. You mentioned before low wages.
Yes.
We also need to track income inequality within the labor market because the traditional metrics don't capture the full picture of income distribution. Tracking income inequality helps us to understand if wage gaps are widening between different demographic groups and whether workers are earning a living wage. For example, if we see that certain groups are consistently earning less than others despite similar job roles and qualifications, it indicates a need for policies to address these disparities.
Right. This is a very important KPI. We are seeing already that low-wage jobs are becoming harder to fill.
Correct. And this is a huge problem because we need these workers. Growth in employment has to translate into fair and equitable earnings for all, and we are far from such a scenario.
So, in a nutshell, we are broadening our view from just who's working to how well are they working, how adaptable is the workforce, and how fairly are people being compensated.
Precisely. In the long run, these new KPIs will give us a much more nuanced and accurate understanding of labor markets. It's not enough to know that people are employed. We need to ensure they are in sustainable, high-quality jobs that allow for growth and security.
What would you say is the key takeaway for our listeners, whether they are policymakers, business leaders, or even job seekers themselves?
The key takeaway is that labor markets are far more complex than a simple unemployment rate can convey. To build a more agile, resilient workforce, we need to rely on comprehensive benchmarks and metrics. It's crucial to have experts who can accurately evaluate the system and the results, and it's important that we set these benchmarks at a high standard. Understanding the full picture of the labor market is critical for long-term success.
Great. Stefan, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. We hope you, dear listeners, Walk away with a deeper understanding of these metrics to prepare for the future. For more expert guidance and cutting-edge solutions, don't hesitate to reach out to Stefan or JANZZ.technology services. We are here to help you stay ahead in the ever-evolving landscape of labor markets.
Thank you. Bye.
Understanding the changing labor landscape is the key to stay ahead. Check out our podcast for more intriguing topics. One more time, thank you for listening and goodbye.